Hello and welcome to Beyond the Blue Line. It's playoff time, baby, and I cannot wait. Stu, how are you, mate?
Really well. Glad to be back. Sorry I missed on the last one, but what a great chat you had with Luch. And like you say, playoffs time. I love it. It's best time of the year.
How are you, Ed?
I'm good. Thank you, Scott. It's funny. I'm getting a little bit of deja vu after our podcasting activities yesterday. Slap a different badge on and off we go.
It's a busy time. So tonight we will go through the last weekend, a brilliant 4-point weekend for the Blaze, and we'll look ahead to the playoffs. But first of all, we have a guest, and joining us now is Blaze defenseman Mike Kennedy. Mike, how are you, mate?
I'm doing well, thanks. How are you?
I'm all good.
I think he's going to hand you straight off to me, Mike. And I got to say, I can't believe that it's been nearly a year since we first met and we first did one of these things. How that's flown, eh?
Yeah, no kidding. As they say that sometimes the days are long when you're jam packed and busy, but the weeks are short. It's been a fast year for sure.
It has. How's it been for you? Obviously, it's been your first pro season. Life's a little different in the pros than in collegiate. How have you found it overall?
It's been about as good as I could imagine. It's been a phenomenal year being in that locker room with those guys and living in Coventry. It's really been a special time.
One of the things that Kevin said about you in the summer was just the impact that you have in the room and being able to be a bit of a glue guy. But it has really been a special group, hasn't it? I mean, we're so lucky, everybody here on this podcast to be able to spend varying degrees around the guys in that room. It's been such a great group.
Yeah, completely agree. I mean, it's funny you say that. Like I would say, up and down the roster, we're 20-something glue guys in there. So it's really a special locker room.
Yeah, that's funny. It's funny how that happens sometimes. And I think one of the big things that sort of, I guess, epitomizes how great everybody is I don't know if you've watched it back, but your first pro goal, the OT winner against Dundee, and just like the guys mobbing you and like celebrating that achievement, not only for the team, but for you as well, because it meant a lot. That must have been a pretty special moment.
Yeah, definitely did. It was really cool to be able to seal the deal of a game and have it be my first goal. But it was really special to hug all the boys afterwards. And it was a cool experience. And, really cool to get a pass from my buddy Nick Seitz, who lives just above me. So that was also fun.
I was going to say, like, what do you remember about that goal? Because I mean, you only get first once, right? And I know some of them can be a little bit of a blur, but what do you remember of that moment?
Nothing really. I guess there was Greece right to the left of me, who I probably statistically should have passed it to. So I do remember that, but other than that, not a whole lot. It was a great pass from Nick and a good play by him below the goal line.
I mean, we've got the beauty of having we've got the whole regular season in the rearview mirror now. And I mentioned earlier being your first year as a pro. What's one thing that you think surprised you about this season?
I guess maybe in this league particularly, the parity within the teams. This has proven to be anything can happen kind of league, and there's nothing's a guarantee win, and that's made it a very, very special season. And you have to earn every game you're up against for an opponent.
I think that's wise. I mean, if you pre-scout the matchups, I mean, we're 4-4 against Cardiff. The matchup between Guildford and Nottingham, I think, is 4-4 as well, or maybe even 5-5. I think they played in the cup as well. So it's going to be such an exciting postseason, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. Looking forward to it.
So I know I asked you about one thing that surprised you, and I like asking that to people. I think I probably stole it off Rogan from way back in the day, and when he was interviewing guys in the UFC. But like, what's one big thing that you learned this year? Maybe about the game, maybe about yourself.
I think one thing that I learned would just be about keeping level-headed. It's a very long season. College is much shorter. It's very, very intense. 30 games is quick, and while that's also very important to stay level-headed, because if you mess up in 3 games, that's 10% of the season gone. but it just this season being so long, it's making sure you're checking in with yourself throughout the year and kind of staying even keel, not too high, not too low.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. That's a very mature way of approaching it, and presumably as well. Like in your mind, your game must have evolved quite a lot this year. I mean, we've seen all the good work you've done. How would you say you've changed as a player this year?
I think as a player, controlling the puck a little bit more, and understanding there's a bit more ice out there and there's more plays to be made. In college, I would kind of describe my game as very like chip the puck north, and while that's still very important and simplicity is key, I'd say that is my game has changed in the sense of learning when maybe dumping it in isn't the best move all the time. It's still something I'm continuing to grow at.
Well, that particular facet of the game is about confidence, right? And we saw you, I think, in preseason walk the line a little bit, be able to get some pucks on there, and now being able to transition with the puck south to north, and that's really come on leaps and bounds, I think, for you this year. Have you felt that too, and being confident with it?
Yeah, I would say so. And continuing to work on it in practice, that's definitely something that's been an improvement looking back over the course of the year.
Good man. Stu.
Yeah, I maybe want to have a chat about sort of like the surroundings, right, of Coventry, and this weekend is particular because obviously the crowd this weekend, huge crowd in the Sky Dome, really great atmosphere. Like how the size of the crowds that you played at sort of previously at college, they're not that dissimilar to the size. Like Princeton's average is 1,800, somewhere in that sort of ballpark. So it's not massively different, but is there any sort of difference between how the sort of like the British fans cheer and how the American fans cheer? How do you feel that from the players' perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. I can think of a couple games in college where that I guess that energy is comparable. I can think of Cornell, for instance. They have a pretty steep they have a pretty steep stand section, but it's not necessarily the biggest crowd. I think that's something that's also very important to separate. Like you can have a huge crowd with a ton of people, like you're saying, but it's not necessarily the loudest crowd. Maybe it's just a lot of spectators. People aren't fully engaged in the game like there was on Sunday. But that was electric, and you can't say I've played too many games that come close to that experience on Sunday, where, like you said, the quantity of people wasn't necessarily out of this world, but it was a great crowd. I mean, sold out, but super loud. Like you could just feel it in the air. Everyone was on the edge of their seats. It was a very important game for Sheffield and for us going into playoffs, and it really made for an electric environment.
Yeah, and I think the Sky Dome really facilitates that, like the way where the stands are, like the sight lines, like the ability to see the puck, the fans get the engagement. You might not get the numbers, but when the building is full, it's loud in there, and I think we saw that on Sunday night, and I hope we see it on Saturday night coming up as well. Quarterfinal game coming around the corner, and kind of just sort of going on that. There's a lot of sort of interactions with the fans because everything's kind of close and up together, and everyone we speak to, ourselves included, when we talk to you, Mike, you come across as the nicest guy that we've ever steps on a hockey ice. Your style of play is perhaps a little bit different from that. So where does that come from? Because you are you're not the biggest defenseman in the world, but you play bigger than you are. Always physical, blocking shots, battling in front of the net, sometimes getting under the skin of the opposition once or twice. Where does that come from? Is it always been a part of your game?
Yeah, I would say growing up, playing with high intensity, and I would say over the years finding a strong passion for I don't really know how to put it. The idea of like it's a us versus them mentality on the ice. It's and then kind of playing from a strong passion out of sense of camaraderie, I guess is a way to put it. I'd say that's more in lines with where my headspace is at.
And do you think that is part of perhaps why Kevin recruited you and everybody else? Like that you all share similar parts of that mentality, that it is, there was the sort of this talk at the start of the season that the Coventry Blaze were kind of being written off, that they weren't going to do very well. And did that kind of feed into that, that us against the world mentality?
Yeah, I think it definitely plays a part. And like you said, I don't think it was a coincidence by Kevin Moore recruiting a bunch of us who play with that same intensity and willingness to block shots and finish a check and back check. But yeah, I definitely think that there is an added chip on the shoulder when you come into it with you see all that on social media with us being pegged at the 10th seed.
Yeah, well, I'm going to say it now. That was a commentator's prediction. So it was all the commentators around the Elite League. I didn't have us at 10th. So my colleagues around the league, you got it wrong. And I'm very pleased with where the season's ended up. We great performances all year. Attendance is through the roof. Great style of hockey, and into the playoffs. Coming round the corner. Is that playoffs in the Elite League is pretty similar to sort of the NCAA style. So you're not entirely dissimilar to what you've experienced before. So you excited, raring to go.
Absolutely, yeah. I think it's a good point, Stu. It really is similar to NCAA. Last year, it's the first round's a one and done, and then it's a 2 out of 3 series. But we don't have any lengthy 4 out of 7 series. Like I don't know if you followed the tournament recently with NCAA, but that's all one and dones. I mean, to make it to the finals, you got to win quite the stretch of games in a row. But it's short, relatively speaking, in terms of each series amongst opponent.
And I know a lot of people kind of detract a little bit from the Elite League playoffs because it's short. But actually, I think it produces some really great hockey because you've got players in the mindset of like, it's now or never. And every game is now or never. Like you've got the quarterfinals, you've got 2 games, that's it. Semi-finals, it's like you say, one and done. The final, one and done. That's it. In 4 games, you're either in it or you've gone. And then you can rest up over the summer after that. So do you think that sort of feeds in that that you can just play as pretty much as hard as you can for 2 weeks and you might come away with a piece of silverware?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. That's another great point. Like without this 20-game stretch from the first round to the finals, you don't need to worry about like a sustainability factor of your body or anything like that. And like you said, that will produce just another level of intensity out there on the ice from both opponents, and that's the beauty of it, really. Like you watch the NHL, and while that's a very long playoff run, you see the difference between game 45 and the first round of playoffs or the finals, and it's crazy that how they throw their bodies at each other because that's when you can really let loose and you don't need to worry about maintaining or anything like that. It's time to hit the nos on the.
I mean, we don't want you to throw everything so at it that you end up getting hurt. We want you upright, skating, and hopefully being successful over the next 2 weeks, and achieving everything that I think this team possibly can do.
Absolutely, yeah. It's going to be a fun run.
Mike, it's the old enemy in the Cardiff Devils. It's a rivalry that we've had for 25 years since we first inaugurated. 4-4 in the league and cup this year. Both teams winning 3 games in each other's barns. It's a very close matchup. They got a bit chippy with us on Saturday. You seem to relish it, smiling at everyone. But how do we beat this team, the Cardiff Devils? Because they're going to want to get one over on us. But how do you see this matchup going?
It really comes down to our game. Like you said, it's neck and neck, but nonetheless, it really just comes down to how we play our game. And that's hard. It's staying on top on the forecheck. It's overall willingness and just bringing our best compete.
The aggregate system as well. I mean, I love it. And as Stu said earlier, the playoffs in this league is amazing. Ed, Stu, you got anything else?
Last one, because I think the whole point that you're making there, Mike, is like in terms of why this team is so great is the mentality. Like it really is a them and us. Everybody's mucking in, everybody's pulling the rope in the same direction. No one's asking anybody to do anything that they wouldn't do themselves, and I love that. And we talked about, with you, I think working with Kevin previously, and someone that's, I think, epitomized of, not wanting anyone to do anything he won't do himself is the assistant coach in Zach Vinnell, who's had to pull on the skates for 15, 16 games this year, has worked a lot with the defensemen such as yourself. What's it been like working with Vinny? Because, I mean, we probably don't see him as much as Kevin. We speak to him, but like, he seems to just be quietly going about his business and quietly being very, very effective.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's been a pleasure to really learn from him, as a player and as a coach. I mean, like you mentioned, I remember the Belfast game was his first game, and Strids was sick. I was hurt, and he probably hadn't been, aside from going to the gym to stay in overall shape, he probably hadn't been, training to the utmost intensity. But it was very apparent watching the game online that he was absolutely playing his heart out. He's blocking shots, diving for pucks to eat one for the guys. But yeah, like you said, that mentality is definitely top down, top to bottom, and bottom up.
And he knows what it takes to win in this league, of course. Having been in Sheffield last year as part of that Grand Slam team. What kind of tricks of the trade? What kind of tips is he giving you guys at this late stage?
Oh yeah, no, it definitely is a really big asset to have someone who's been in the arena and come out victorious. It's a big thing. Is I'd say reminding ourselves about mental check-ins and just overall having a healthy routine going into it and not overdoing it because of like pure excitement, and learning how to make sure you're reserving yourself these next couple days.
Makes sense to me. Good habits. Rule number one.
Absolutely.
And if
Scott, do you want to do the whole closer thing here as our esteemed host
No.
with the most?
Of course, Mike, thanks for joining us. We're pumped. We can't wait for the weekend. So good luck this weekend.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Cheers, Mike.
Cheers, Mike.
There's a common theme to the guys we spoke to this season. They're chill. They say that they've got a game plan, and nothing phases them. And the questions, they're like, "No, lads, we've got this. It's okay."
Yep.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's part of like, I think when it goes back to that recruitment and what Kevin has been telling the guys like all year, like we stay present. We make sure that we are thinking about what we're doing now, what we're doing tomorrow, and when it's time, it will all come together, and I think that sort of steady mentality just started in September and has carried on. They haven't, like, one of the things when we've been talking to Kevin, like after the games, like if it's been a big win or a big loss, it's like, so what are you doing differently next week? Nothing. We stay the same. We do the same prep. Doesn't matter whether it was 6-0 to us, 6-0 to them. It's the same stuff. And we keep doing the same. And good habits, they take you there.
Oh, yeah, it just gets me all excited. But we'll talk. Let's get even more excited, because let's go back to last weekend, and we rolled into the Cardiff Devils, who had solidified fourth. They really had nothing to play for apart from maybe putting their marker down. And
shot pass, it won't.
A tight game. They score on the power play. That was their only goal. But what did you make of the game, Ed? It was an interesting one, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was another good atmosphere as well. I mean, I took the trip down to the Vindico to watch it, so that was good. And frankly, it was just a precursor for the playoffs next weekend. Like the intensity of the game, the physicality of the game. There was no quarter given. I think everybody found that extra gear in terms of speed. I think as well, thinking back on it, it was probably one of those games in terms of the playoffs where everybody's kind of zoned in on their details. That they'd zoned in on their pre-scout, they'd zoned in on what their responsibilities were in all three zones, and actually the amount of big mistakes were very, very small. And that's one of the reasons that it was a very, very low scoring game. 2-1 in overtime, and even the Blaze first goal, Cressy's goal, that's a kind of a weird bank off the backboards, and he's able just to kind of stuff it home. And then the Sights goal to win it OT is just a little bit of pressure and a little bit of a mistake in terms of coverage, and you're slipping a guy that ultimately scored 30 goals on the season, which is one of them things, one of them details that didn't happen in the heat of the moment, from a Cardiff perspective, and we were the benefactors. But it is a great precursor and a great thing to be excited about in a few days' time.
Stu, we had 2 5-on-3s. I felt like we rattled the Cardiff Devils. They can't play that way again against us. How do you see it going in the next one against the Cardiff Devils?
Yeah, I think you're right. Special teams is hugely important, and particularly when you've got a power play that is, buzzing along at the top of the charts. You can't take too many penalties, because sooner or later, particularly with the Blaze and the way that the Blaze power play is adaptable in finding different ways to score, sooner or later they find a way through. So I think both teams are going to have to keep it clean. The same holds true for Cardiff's power play against Coventry. You can't give too much away the other way as well. Both teams want to keep it clean. It's the playoffs. The referees have a tendency, as we know in playoffs, to let the players play, something that I can 100% get behind. So we'll see how it pans out, but you've got to get, take what both teams are going to have to do over the course of the 120 minutes is take advantage of the chances when they get them. There can't be slip ups, fans on pucks. If you get a grade A, you've got to at least make the goalie make a save.
I mean, I know that was a dead rubber game for them, but them conceding 7 seconds left in overtime because Evan Mosey switched off, I think that will be a good one for us, because if you're going to do that against us, you're going to learn. So they're going to be on it this week. And look, boys, I'm just excited.
I'll say that I don't think it was a dead rubber game, but at this time of the year, you're playing for momentum, you're playing for pride in your own house. The Cardiff Devils did not mail that one in by any stretch. That was a tough game between two teams who wanted to keep their momentum going at the end of the season. And it was a real tough one. So I don't think you can say that it was, it wasn't uncompetitive, because it was hugely competitive in that sense. So it's worth noting that teams, even that all the teams around the league, particularly in March, it happens every year. You start picking up form, you're trying to get momentum and results. Playoff hockey really in the UK actually started 3-4 weeks ago.
Talking of big games, there was one on Sunday night, and to say what a start is an understatement. Boys, talk me through this.
What a great game that was. I mean, that's going to be probably one of the top 10 games in the 25 years in the barn. And bear in mind we've won championships in the building, so that's pretty high praise. But yeah, I think I said at the time when Sheffield tied it up at 2, that's what a championship team do, and in many ways similar to the Blaze. They kind of just went about their business. They went about their game plan. They found another gear. And and then they ended up scoring 3 unanswered to take the lead. But we just did what this Coventry Blaze team have done. I think, when I watched the highlights back, and I kind of was paying a little bit of attention to what the benches were doing. And when stuff was going down, the Sheffield Steelers bench looked a lot more animated. They looked like they were a little bit more stressed. And sure, they had something on the line. Sure, they wanted to win the game, and therefore they could have put themselves in a position to win the league title. But from our perspective, again, talking about pride, we don't want to let any team come in this rink and win the championship on our ice unless it's us. We wanted to keep our 4-game winning streak at that point alive. We wanted to make that 5, and we were kind of clinical with how we went about our business. I don't think they were too dissimilar in terms of the games from Sunday to Friday, certainly in terms of intensity, certainly in terms of tempo and how the games were played. I think probably the difference between the two, frankly, was just the bigger mistakes and the bigger mistakes that ultimately led to goals. But I'm also really, really glad that we saw a bunch of goals in that game. 7 goals in front of 3,000 plus fans was great. If it had been a 1-0, sure, it'd have been a bit more tense, but I think that the goals and the lead swinging back and forward sort of added to the drama.
And Stu, Sheffield come in, they brought the town. They said they were taking over. Their social media account was on about them winning like handsomely. They've taken over Wetherspoons, but our boys created them to be a nervous team. You think when they take that Champini, makes them go 3-2 ahead, you were thinking, okay, they might have the bit between the teeth. But 2 shifts later, we're back on it. We didn't allow them to win this game. And then apparently, Mr. Greenfield got screened for the game winner.
I certainly looked at that. I don't see a screen there. We see it on the video now. That is a brilliant release from Chase Greasock. It's something from nothing. He's joint league leading goal scorer for a reason, and you can see it there in that play. Just peels away, gets a shot off. Matt Greenfield is no mug in net by any stretch of the imagination. One of the best goalies that we've seen in the elite leagues for a number of years, and that just whistles past him. There's nothing there, there's nothing that he can really do to stop it. It's taking advantage of those opportunities when they come, and it's making sure that you remain. It goes back to what Mike was just talking about, that level-headedness. Even if you do go 1 goal behind in a big game, just know if we keep doing our thing, we'll be fine. I think as well, it was similar to what Mike Regish said a few weeks back when he was on with us. It was like, if we play our game for 60 minutes, we're a match for everyone, And Sheffield had everything to play for on Sunday night, and we matched them. We were, ultimately came out with the win, and it was good for us, for the momentum, good for playoffs moving forward. It puts down a nice marker against everyone else in the league to let's say Coventry can mix it up with the best of them, and if you draw them in the playoffs, it's going to be a tough game.
Ed, winning's a habit. That's what they say. It's 5 in a row. Knowing Kevin as well as you do, how do you think he approaches these next 6 periods? Because that's effectively what it is. It's not 1 game, it's 6 periods.
Yeah, I mean, he'll probably make it more granular than that. He's just focusing shift to shift. And, as Mike said a minute ago, it's just about preparing the way we prepared all year, executing the way that we've executed when we've been at our best. And, he's going to be emphasizing to the guys. And he's done this. Like, if you go back through the course of the 54-game season, he's thrown guys in different scenarios, left, right, and center. Like if you look at the power play at the minute, we're running 1 unit with Terry and 4 forwards, and then we're running 1 with 2 defensemen on it, or we've been running 1 with 5 forwards on it and 1 with 2 defensemen, I should say. Sorry, in a totally different configuration on both. You've had guys like Jack Hopkins used on the power play, Zach Heinz has been used on the power play, Morten Jurgens has been used on the power play. Grayson Constable's been used on the power play. You've had Brindley Capps. I know he's going to be away with GB, but just for a point of example, you've had him on the ice at a tie game with like 30 seconds left. Kevin has mixed guys in so that they experience different levels of stress, and then he coaches them mentally out, around it to say, hey, look, we had success here. This wasn't so bad. Or if something didn't quite go well when he tried to put someone in a different scenario, he's okay, well, let's talk around how that worked and what we do next time. And the experience of all of that's culminated to the Coventry Blaze being a team right now that I don't think anybody frankly wants to play. Like, I think if you look up and down 1 to 8, Coventry's going to be one of the last teams you'd pick out the hat and want to face in the next 4 games.
Well, social media are finally on our side. If you look at the predictions that from tweets that they see us making the Final Four. Boys, I'm not going to ask you, are we going to make the Final Four? Because I know what the answer is going to be. But let's have a look at some of the stats to end the season. And it's not been a bad finish for the boys in blue, has it?
You picture that is. And the other thing that you don't see on that, because you see Grace Sox, Sykes, Luciani, Regish leads the league in assists as well. So you've got joint goal scorer, top assist player. There's a lot of good things that have happened offensively in the ice for Coventry this year. And that doesn't even start to talk about how brilliant Matt Robson's been at the back end.
Yeah, and since January as well, Alderson's been phenomenal. Like, he's been a point a game, I think, since January, if not more. And his game's evolved brilliantly too. I mean, it's a similar thing to Luch, because like Luch last year was the goal getter. He had 20 goals, I think like 14, 15 assists, something like that. But it was him putting the puck in the net, which was how his line worked. And Aldi was similar last year in Cardiff. I think he had 19 goals, 15 assists as well. This year he started out as the goal getter, and he was leading the league in power play goals. He was our off wing one-timer. And then we shuffled the offensive line around, and all of a sudden he becomes this great facilitator. And yeah, he's scoring. He scored a hat-trick, I think, against Fife the other week. But his assists were just ramping up and up and up, and he really found his niche for us. And I love that we've got that adaptability. And I was just talking about it, throwing different guys in different scenarios throughout the year. Oldie's another example of that. And I can't remember where he finished in the points, maybe just about top 20. But he was phenomenal, really, really good through the calendar year.
And against Cardiff, he just, there's an extra beast in him playing against his old team, and he seems to thrive on that. So, boys, let's look forward to the weekend. Saturday at home, Sunday away. So get your tickets, Blaze fans. And I'm hoping that next week we'll be doing another episode previewing the Final Four.
Fingers
crossed.
Thanks, boys. That's as much as you get out of me. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Cheers, Blaze fans. Take care.